Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So as you can probably tell, I am in a different setting today, and that's because I'm in my apartment. I decided to do a little filming here today, and today I am filming what is called a Bookopoly. So I definitely did not come up with this idea. This idea came from Becca and the books, and she created this concept. Her imagination is something else. And my friend Gavin then created his own board, and when I saw his board, I was like, this is what I need to help me get out of this creative, weird slump that I've been in. I'm going to link Becca's video down below because she will definitely be better at explaining the rules than I will be. However, I'll just take you through a quick overview. So I am doing 4 rolls for 4 books. I know on Becca's channel it's her monthly TBR, however, I work a full-time job and write, so I don't set monthly TBRs for myself, so these will be the next 4 books that I read, and then I'll do a recent reads video to wrap it up, and then we'll do another Bookopoly. It's a little more chaotic that way. It's not as scheduled, however, we all know I don't do well on a schedule anyway, so I think this will work out a lot better for me. So the rules of the game are that you roll the dice, and however much is on the dice are the spaces that you go, just like in Monopoly, and wherever you land, that is the book genre that I have to choose. If I roll a double, I have to roll an extra round, just like in Monopoly, which would mean a longer recent reads video. But overall, it's pretty self-explanatory. It works just like Monopoly, except it's picking the book genres that I'll be reading. So I spent the entirety of June creating a board, and I am happy to share it with you guys now. So starting here, this is my go space. It has some poorly drawn arrows. As we'll learn throughout this journey, I am not an artiste, but I definitely tried throughout this process. So this is my go space, and then let's go through the Monopoly board. So starting off our brown spaces, we have classics. I don't normally read classics, but I thought I would put them on the board to hopefully inspire me to read some. This was the first drawing I did on the board, so just, take it with a grain of salt. We get a little better, not much, but a little better as we go on. And then in the middle here, as you see, it says read a Wattpad book. So this is a book that has either been published by a Wattpad author or is from the site Wattpad, depending on what I'm into that month. And that's my poorly drawn Wattpad W. Again, try not to judge me too hard. I really did try. So moving down the board here, my next 2 spaces. This one is a purple space, which will be repeated throughout the board. This one happens to be a retelling, and this is my apple. I know it's purple, as you'll notice they all match. My next one here is a pastel orange space. This is the dark orange, this is the pastel orange. These will also be repeated throughout the board. And this one tells me that I need to read a debut author, so an author's first work. Moving further down the board here, we have 3 light blue spaces, and those are YA romance. One of my favorite genres, and as you can see, we have a heart, some kissy faces, and a flower. If I land on this space, obviously I have to read a YA romance. And then in the middle here, we have a chance space. Here are my chance cards. These are all of the books from my 2019 TBR that I have not read yet. So if I land on a chance space, I will have to pull one of these cards to read one of the books I said I would definitely read this year. So continuing around the board, this one is my followers recommend space. So as you can see, we have a Twitter, a little tiny W for Wattpad, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube. I don't really know. I think for this space, if I land on this space, I'll have to randomly choose one of these. Maybe I'll choose them out of a jar or something, or randomize it on a website. But whichever one I land on, like if I land on Snapchat, whatever book, maybe I'll put up a poll. As you can tell, I haven't really thought this out. Hold on. So whichever social media platform I land on, those are the people that will recommend a book for me to read, and the most recommended book is the one that I will choose. So continuing down this side, we have 3 pink spaces, and those are my mental health spaces. As we probably know by now, if you've been here on my channel, I am a huge advocate for mental health in books, and I own a lot of them. So these are the spaces that tell me, hey, go pick up one of those books. Here we have a semicolon, a heartbeat with a little heart at the start, and a brain. The brain, hopefully you can tell it's a brain. I tried really hard. And then we have another purple space, just like our retelling, except this one is realistic fiction. And I tried a little bit harder on the book this time, as you can tell. As you can tell when we get through the board, I've run out of ideas for spaces, so there's a lot of books. But obviously it's a Bookopoly board, so I figured as long as they're all drawn differently, that's okay. So moving further down, we have another pastel orange space, and this is a book you bought over a year ago, and that's my attempt at oh my gosh, I forgot the name, but one of the sand time things that you flip. You guys know what I'm talking about. So that is my attempt. And yes, so I have a lot of books on my TBR and in my bedroom that I buy and never read because I love to buy books. So this is telling me, hey, get to one of those books that you need to read. So over here are our pastel purple spots, and those are YA fantasy. So I definitely don't read a lot of YA fantasy, but hopefully this board will inspire me to do so. And as you can see, we have a hypnotism symbol, a crown, and a wand with some little stars. And I thought, you know, at least these two represented YA fantasy. This one, you know, we'll just pretend that it's supposed to be there. And then we have another orange Read a Wattpad book. So continuing around the board, this is where I definitely took from Becca's Bookopoly. This is a 5-star prediction. I plan on making a video that goes over my 5-star predictions, which are essentially books that I think haven't read yet, but I think will be 5 stars. So yeah, if I land on this space, I will definitely have to choose one of those books. And a lot of them intimidate me because I'm scared because I think they'll be 5 stars and I don't want to ruin that. So continuing over this way, now is where you can see where I bent my board. But we have our red spots here, which are poetry books. I love poetry books. I have a whole collection of them and I buy new ones all the time. As you can tell, there are a theme with these drawings, which include a quill and paper. And then we have another chance space. Moving down the board here, we have another pastel orange space, which is reread a book. I have quite a few books I want to reread this year. I just haven't gotten the chance to, so hopefully this inspires me to do so. And now we get to our yellow spaces, which are YA fiction. They were supposed to be YA contemporary, but as you can tell by the white out, that didn't fit. So YA fiction is what we ended up with. And we had to get a little creative with these drawings to represent YA fiction. So we have a pair of glasses, because I use those to read. I use those for everything I can't see. We have a pair of headphones, because I also use those when I'm reading, so that way I can block out the world around me. And we have a coffee or tea mug. I don't drink coffee or tea, but I pretend that's Diet Coke because that's all that I drink. And then we have another purple space here, and this time we have magical realism. I don't read a lot of magical realism, but I figured, again, this would be a great opportunity for me to do so. And you can see my whiteout here as well where I messed up, but I drew a little butterfly for this one, and I can't tell you why. I just thought it look cute there. Moving on, we have a book that's been gifted to you. So for my birthday and Christmas, I do get gifted quite a lot of books, as people know that I love to read, and I don't always have time to get to them, so this will inspire me to get to those books. Moving around here, our next green spaces, those are series, so I'm really good at starting series and not finishing them. Hopefully I can finish some more series this year, or at least continue on. And for these, we have a series of numbers that I just kind of drew at an angle. This is one of my favorite drawings on the board, and that is like some books on like a shelf. I spent a lot of time on this particular drawing, so I'm really into it. And then this is also one of my first drawings, so please don't judge it, but it's supposed to be like a series of books coming down at an angle, however the 4 gets cut off. And then right here in the middle, we have another orange space, which is, of course, Read a Wattpad book. So coming down to the last few spaces here, we have another pastel orange, and this one is your most recent purchase. So this will make me read those books that I am so intent on buying but then lay down. We have another chance space for another chance of that 2019 TBR. And then we have another purple space. This one is a fantasy world, and I drew this castle that I'm in love with. And then our last two spaces are the dark blue, and those are Owl Crate. So every month I do get a subscription to Owl Crate. However, I'm terrible at actually reading the books. I just love the stuff. So hopefully I can land on these and start digging through some of those Owl Crate exclusives. So with the board, I have this piece. This is Ariel from The Little Mermaid, who happens to be my all-time favorite Disney princess. She comes in the Disney Scene It game, 2nd edition, and I thought she would be perfect to go with my Bookopoly. So we have our first Bookopoly rule. We have a 6 and a 2, so 8. So our first Bookopoly roll is a YA romance. So here is the bookshelf in my apartment. Obviously, this is only a small selection of my books. However, this is my only bookshelf in my apartment, so we take what we can get. So our first roll was YA romance, and that's this shelf right here. And then, where is it? That shelf down there. So I'm just going to take a look here and see what our best option is. So for this one, I think I'm going to choose, Katie Upperman's latest release. So on the first roll, I got YA romance, and for that I chose The Impossibility of Us by Katie Upperman. I've heard great things about this book, and I think Katie Upperman is an amazing human being. If you don't follow her on social media, please do. She is such an incredibly sweet and kind person, and I cannot wait to give this book a shot. We have our second Bookopoly roll, which is another 8. And for that one, we have a YA fantasy. So my next choice was a YA fantasy. This is the only shelf that I have of YA fantasy, and this is a series, but back there we have an Owl Crate book. So I think I already know what book I want to choose, and I think I'm going to go with this one. So the next roll was YA fantasy, and I don't read a lot of YA fantasy. However, there have been some books I have been really wanting to get to. So for this one, I chose This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I really don't know much about this book other than it has a human and a monster, and the monster steals souls, I think. But I'm definitely very intrigued to find out what's going on. And I can't remember if this is the first book or if Our Dark Duet is the first book, but whichever one is the first book is the one that I'll be reading. We have our third Bookopoly roll, which is a 7. A poetry book. So we have one more roll. So our next selection was poetry, and again, I already know which book I want to go with. This is my latest poetry purchase. So next I landed on poetry, and for that I chose If My Body Could Speak by Blythe Baird. She is one of my favorite speakers, slam poetry. She's one of my favorite speakers for slam poetry, and she came out with a poetry collection, and I think that I will absolutely love it. I am so excited. And our last Bookopoly roll is another 7. And that's a book that's been gifted to you. And then the last option we had is a book that a friend gifted to you. So for that choice, I have either Morgan Matson or City of Ashes, and I think I'm gonna go with. And then my final roll was a book that's been gifted to you, and for me that is City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. Ali Novak has been gifting me one book in this series for every holiday, and I have not been reading them. So I am determined to start getting through these books. I already read the first book in the series last year, but this year I really want to settle down and try and get through some of the Mortal Instruments series and see how I feel about it, because 2018 was kind of a weird year for me, so I can't really trust my book opinion. So I am going to go through City of Ashes and see how I feel. And then I'm already reading one other book, and that is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. I don't have it with me right now. It's in my car because I was reading it in my doctor's office today. However, that is the other book that I will be reading before my next recent reads video. I hope this video wasn't too confusing and all over the place. As I said before, I will link Becca's video down below because she does a much better job at explaining this stuff than I do. However, if you did like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more content, as I am trying to put out one video weekly. I said it would be Monday, then I said it would be Tuesday. At this point, a video is fine by me. So I'll be putting out one video weekly, and I hope to see you guys here. So thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye. My friend Gavin from, oh my god, my dad is texting me. And then in the middle here we have a chance card. And then here, oh,